white boys are back. It's the pod people, your favorites, or least favorite, I don't know which. And we're back with another mini review. Stop banging shit on the table! I'm your host, Matisse Van Rossum, and I'm joined by all the boys. Ben is back. Welcome back, Ben.
Hey, it's a piranha. Hey.
It's just one piranha. And Eugene is here as well.
Man, I'm tired of this system, old man. That's not what spring break is about. It's about pumping your fist in the air and not wearing a t-shirt. Get out of my face.
And tonight we're joined by another special guest, our good buddy Quin Voet. Welcome to the show, Quin.
Yo, 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 what's up, what's up?
And in case you didn't guess it from the title of the episode, we're here reviewing Piranha 3D, a film that I think, and I think you guys would agree, is extremely underrated.
3 dimensions of death.
3 dimensions of piranhas and 3 dimensions of boobies, which is the exact dimension that I like when it comes to my boobies.
And male genitalia.
Oh, yes. That's CG, though. The boobies are real. Piranha 3D came out in 2010, was directed by Alexander Aja, who did stuff like, High Tension, the remake of Hills Have Eyes.
Mirrors, which I guess is also a remake of another movie, so seems like he's, at a certain point, he was the horror movie remake guy to go to. Right. He had a nice good string in the early to late 2000s. But...
All I've seen that he's done is the Hills Have Eyes remake.
I saw High Tension a few years back, and I hated it. I did not think it was good at all. It's one of those movies where it does one of those, oh, she was actually the killer the whole time twist.
Hey, spoilers, this movie's like only 16 years old.
I'm going to spoil it because it sucks and you shouldn't see it.
What about all the people, myself included, who wanted to go out and see High Tension immediately after listening to this episode? Now you've ruined it for all of them.
Ha!
And I knew it was in French, and now I knew I was going to love it just from that.
So yeah, this movie's about spring break is happening on this popular lakefront.
In Arizona or something, which seems like a weird place to go for spring break.
Does anyone remember the name of the lake?
Lake County.
Piranha.
Piranha Lake.
The big dirty lake.
3D lake.
Yeah, apparently an earthquake happens, or a seismic event, and it opens up an underground lake underneath the lake.
Lakeception.
Yeah.
Even.
Which is full of prehistoric piranhas. It's not a thinking man's movie. It's a very simple concept.
Piranha 3D for the intellectual dark web only. I feel like this is like the last of the real 3D gimmick movies of the mid to late 2000s. Obviously more 3D movies have come out since then, but this is the last one I remember where it's like, this is Piranha 3D, it's in 3D and you gotta see it in 3D.
This was peak gimmick. I feel like around this time they were introducing those 3D TVs that you could get where you could wear the weird shaded glasses.
Who wants
to
to wear
TV.
glasses when they're watching TV?
Right? Super extra. Well, and that's the thing. They developed these for 2 years, and then they stopped making them, so people probably paid $3,000 for one of these TVs.
Matisse.
Quin.
What's your favorite mid-2000s gimmicky 3D movie?
I honestly probably this one though, because I fucking hate 3D. It's a terrible goddamn gimmick.
This movie absolutely works in 3D.
Yes, it does. We did not watch it in 3D, obviously.
Yeah.
But
it plays some of the gimmicks up, but it's okay because it's such a campy, cartoony over-the-top movie. And it's colorful, too. Unlike a lot of 3D movies, it actually uses color.
Like My Bloody Valentine 3D, it's not grimdark and gross.
It's not a dark mess that's basically incomprehensible with 3D glasses on, you know? It's bright and in your face.
Well, I guess the original Piranha was directed by Joe Dante and produced by Roger Corman. Were you saying, Ben, that like even the premise of the original Piranha was supposed to be like a Jaws spoof? I've never seen it.
Yeah, well, there was a bit of Jaws mania after it came out, and so there was a bunch of knockoffs that were coming out that weren't as quality, you know, like Orca the Killer Whale, and like Piranha was supposed to like be kind of a parody. It's directed by Joe Dante, you know, the Gremlins guy.
I'm sure that I haven't seen the original either, but I'm sure it must be pretty tongue-in-cheek.
It's a little tongue-in-cheek. Much like this movie, it kind of plays it straight a little bit. Like,
I mean, yeah, Joe Dante is not totally camp. Like, he did The Howling. Have you guys seen that? The werewolf movie?
I haven't ever
that
seen
one is... It's not that campy. It's definitely not the same kind of camp level as, like, American Werewolf in London. The Howling has some of the greatest horror movie practical effects I think I've ever seen. I'm kind of lukewarm on the movie in general, but... like, it's iconic just for some of those werewolf effects. This movie is like pure exploitation, shameless B movie.
Well, and that's the thing, because we have a lot of quote unquote exploitation movies lately, you know, like post Grindhouse, we get all these, you know, Sharknadoes, but when people make those movies, I feel like they're too tongue-in-cheek where they're in on the joke a bit too much to make it feel like an actual like exploitation throwback.
Right, there's a certain amount of sincerity lost in those kinds of movies. It's like, how dumb of a movie can we make?
I think the big problem is a callback to some of those. They were probably not trying to be as goofy as they are, as they appear to be today, because of course effects and just acting, things of that nature, they can age really poorly. So with some of those movies that are coming out that want to try and emulate that, sometimes they're just not. They're almost not given the right amount of effort. You need to care about what you're doing, even if it's stupid and silly.
They miss the point of what makes those charming, you know? Like,
right.
Your delivery's got to have some sincerity, even if you're trying to make a fun campy
You have
movie.
to ground your world, even if the events in your world are cartoony and over the top. You know, like the events in this movie, I thought are done pretty well. You know, it's still pretty campy. You have Christopher Lloyd as this fish expert.
And he totally just turns on the Doc Brown thing, to a ridiculous level.
He gives it 150%, and I love it.
Well, Christopher Lloyd and Richard Dreyfuss both make and Eli Roth too cameos, I think, for the most part. Christopher Lloyd is definitely a bigger part, as we mentioned, as sort of like the crazy guy who...
4 million years.
Right? Yeah, just super hamming it up, giving us the whole exposition dump. But
this particular species of piranha.
The main story revolves around this the 17-year-old kid named
Jake.
Steve McQueen Jr.
Yes, yeah, right. The grandson of Steve McQueen, it turns out. So I wonder if he'd be proud of him just to be in Piranha.
Yeah, I saw in the opening credits Stephen R. McQueen, and I'm like, I wonder if there's any relation or if it's just an attempt to play off of a famous name. But no, I guess he actually is related.
I gotta look this up. When did Steve McQueen die? Was he alive when this came out?
I don't think so.
No, he died in 1980.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah,
Steve McQueen's
died
been dead for
I'm thinking of Paul Newman.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. All right, no.
He died in 2011, I think.
But just in general, like, this movie has like a surprisingly stacked cast for what it is. Aside from the cameos from Christopher Lloyd and Richard Dreyfuss and Eli Roth, you got like Ving Rhames, Elizabeth Shue, fucking Adam Scott in like an early film role.
A lot of familiar porn stars.
A lot of familiar porn stars. I don't think that there is a natural pair of breasts in this entire movie, except maybe Richard Dreyfuss at the beginning. But like all of the tits are fake.
Well, it works because it's a spring break movie.
Right.
You know?
This whole movie just makes me feel like it reminds me of the intro to Spring Breakers without any of the irony. Which is funny in its own way.
Yeah, well, especially the party scenes. Like, they have all these flashy intro scenes on the beach with bunches of people dancing to their own beats.
Right. The montage party scenes where they're all obviously dancing to different beats.
Right, because you can assume that on set, I mean, for dialogue and everything, you're not going to have music blaring.
They weren't playing music. That must be super surreal to just see like hundreds of people in bathing suits just dancing to no music.
Harvey Weinstein liked it.
Oh yeah, this is a Weinstein production.
Yeah, God, now we know why it was made.
It sure makes a lot of sense.
This is his magnum opus.
What he'll be remembered for.
See, watching that, I came upon a realization where I don't know if I've ever actually seen like a real spring break party. I feel like I'm seeing it in movies constantly, but I've never actually seen one in real life or like heard of one. So I wonder maybe
I have, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, well,
Are they
they exist.
Similar?
Just seems like movie set spring break parties are crazier.
Well, let me put it to you this way. A real spring break party has the same amount of people and boobies and energy, but it's much
more annoying,
sadder, I guess. Like, everybody obviously out of their fucking minds on drugs, puking, like, all over each other, like, stumbling, bros in fucking bro tanks getting into fights.
Right, they're like, I think I gotta take another semester.
I guess the best way I could describe it is that real spring break parties are similar, but much less glamorous.
Much
the ones
trashier.
You see. Much trashier.
Well, hey, that's just real life compared to movies. Always a little more trash.
Well, the big overarching storyline, getting back to it though, is Stephen McQueen's character, whatever his name is, Jake. He is supposed to be babysitting his siblings on spring break, you know?
His mom's the sheriff, and she's a single mom, so he has to babysit the kids.
He gets invited to be like a location scout for Jerry O'Connell's Wild Wild Girls, which is, you know, obviously just a play on Girls Gone Wild.
Yeah, that might be the most dated thing. Has anyone even heard of Girls Gone Wild? Like in this digital age, I feel like that shit only made sense for VHS.
Yeah, that shit. I remember watching Comedy Central late at night as a kid.
Comedy Central.
And there's always just like the 5-minute commercials for Girls Gone Wild in between like the late night comedy shows. And as a kid, it's like, oh my God, boobies.
Or if your parents are in the room, you're just staring blankly at the wall for 2 minutes,
right?
Hoping nothing goes down.
You're pretending to not be interested.
Pretending not to notice your father saving the phone number as he's watching it. One of those things you brush past. Apparently, the creator of Girls Gone Wild, he was threatening to sue during the making of this because he knew that they had a character who
was him.
Yeah, right. Because if you can imagine, this character's not portrayed in a very positive light. A womanizer, drug addict who, incidentally, and this is the biggest problem the Girls Gone Wild guy had, was that he seems to have a liking towards the younger women, specifically the sort of friend and love interest of the character Jake,
who they establish is 17.
yes,
They are strictly 17 years old.
Yeah. But in fairness, he doesn't know that at the time. And he's like a sleazy...
And he never knows it, does
porn.
he? Like, they never tell him that they're
No.
underage.
we don't need to give this guy justification.
I can't believe
he's a kid diddler.
I can't believe the Girls Gone Wild guy tried to sue over this. He cannot put a copyright on an arrangement of the words girls and wild. I don't think that
Or
works.
sleazy softcore porn directors.
Right. That's defamation of character. Only I'm allowed to
Basically
wear
just
Speedos.
admitting that Jerry O'Connell is playing him. You know?
Yeah.
Right,
That's all doing
he's
by
really
making a
outing
lawsuit out of
himself.
it.
Yeah.
He just thought the performance was too impressive. He's like, oh shit, blowing my spot up.
Real
But-
talk though, like I think Jerry O'Connell kind of steals the show in this movie.
Oh, well,
yeah.
I think he's
Yeah.
having the most fun out of all the actors here. I read apparently Adam Scott, he plays, I guess, like
A researcher. or
A researcher who's working
expert.
right, who's working with the mom when this earthquake goes off to check out, what's going down, what's this seismic activity all about. And since they actually did shoot this in Arizona, Adam Scott likened this experience to being on something like the set of Apocalypse Now, just because it was so unbearably hot every single day that they were shooting. So
I believe it. I bet they lived for the days when they got to be in the water on set.
right. Well, apparently that was another to go on this little tangent. Some of the hardest stuff to shoot for this wasn't the CGI or any of like the gore and special effects stuff. It was the water scenes and just trying to coordinate like the right times to be in the water, to have everyone like coordinate within it. So
Oh, yeah,
doing
dude.
shit like that.
I was actually thinking about that in a couple of the scenes when we were watching last night, like the big bloody scene where
yes,
the piranhas
right.
like all attack the party and there's just like hundreds of people in the water being torn to shreds. Like that whole scene is absolute chaos, and how they coordinated that shit must have been a
Incredible,
fucking
yeah.
nightmare. Like the part where the douchey guy like jumps in the boat and he's driving away and he's just running people over with the boat, and it's like those are real people in the water actually being run over by a boat. Like I'm really wondering how they didn't fucking kill some of those people. They must have had put like a cage around the motor or
Well,
something.
I thought what I was thinking, they just had another boat off screen pulling that one, like
pulling it,
on
you
a
think?
rope.
That could be, but still, like somebody gets their head knocked against the boat and drowns. Like,
Well, and they also have like a floating stage that tilts over because there's so many people on there. And we're jumping a bit ahead in the movie as well, but this movie, what we've explained is pretty much all you need to know. It's an hour and a half, moves really fast.
Yeah.
It almost
yeah, the story is pretty irrelevant, but there's a collection of some really fantastically fun scenes.
Yes, no, just well, from the first kill, Richard Dreyfuss is the first. He is the poor fisherman out on the lake. He's wearing the same clothes he was wearing in Jaws.
This movie is chock full of Jaws homages.
And when
Some
the
Titanic homages.
also, yes.
yeah, that's right, with the whole chaos that happens later on. But the earthquake causes this whirlpool which sucks him into the water. The piranhas chomp him up, and it was giving me it seems like some movies just like do this to me. It's very visceral, but it was giving me a lot of fear.com flashbacks, because
It's the same
he's
kind
getting
of
like
really bad CG.
right, and he's getting
Yeah.
flipped around like crazy as if he's in like a gyroscope or something, or sorry, a Euroscope. I apologize. And
I love that opening though, honestly.
yeah, well, it seems like it's very reminiscent of just the really cheesy effects of like Jaws 3D, like
Yes.
how you'd have like the 3D arm just like float up, and you're like, wow, that looks so bad. Yeah,
Well, that's the funny thing about this movie, and
right, because this is in a good way.
part of it,
Trying to make it look like
part
that.
of it is just like the time that it came out in and the technology that was available, but also at the same time, like Avatar came out a year before this, so the bad CG is not really an excuse aside from a stylistic choice,
right.
which I'm fairly certain it was. But like the CG looks terrible, but the practical effects, chef's kiss. Mwah, amazing.
That's true. All the
Yeah.
mangled bodies.
Nuts! Absolutely
Fantastic.
fucking insane practical effects and gore. And so it's like the combination between this really disgusting visceral gore with these really cartoonish CG effects makes this really weird combination that works.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You know, I think it almost has like the effect of like the Doom game, the new one that came out, where like it's very gory, but it's kind of just campy and over the top and moves along fast enough
Right.
that it doesn't feel excessive. It keeps cartoony through the whole thing.
And it's
you know?
it's so fast paced that you don't have time to get tired of anything that it's doing, because as soon as something starts to get old, it moves on to something more exciting, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't
just-
overstay its welcome.
No, it just like ramps that shit up like crazy. It was awesome to see Eli Roth get his head crushed like a fucking watermelon by a boat.
Yeah, I'm sure that must have been a lot of fun for him to see, just because I'm sure they had to do some sort of mold, and if he was enjoying the movie, getting to hang around set. So yeah, it's pretty spectacular.
During the premiere, somebody had to be like, Eli, put your fucking dick away. Put your dick away.
I gotta look
can't-
this up. Do
You
you guys
can't jerk off here.
Do you guys remember his name in this movie? Because I'm pretty sure it's something ridiculous.
It's just like, well, as far as I know, he is just the wet t-shirt,
Wet t-shirt
contest
host. Yeah, wet t-shirt host is what he's credited as.
Oh, really? I thought he introduced himself as something ridiculous.
Well, his DJ is DJ Chocolate Thunder. Is that what you're thinking
that's what I was
of?
thinking of. Just hilarious.
This movie doesn't take itself seriously at all, but it still takes its universe seriously enough so that there's like sincerity. It doesn't feel patronizing in its tongue-in-cheek attitude, which I know we were just talking about that, but I think that's
because
really important.
it's not trying to have any other sort of message or do anything like that, because it seems like some of the worst movies too, it's like they think that they're trying to say something as well. Like I'm thinking of, I know you only saw it, but you talked about it, that what was it, Blood Freak? The movie where they're trying to have the anti-drug message behind it all, but it just ends up like beating you over the head or just like not working.
Well,
But
yeah,
this
it's
movie,
not subtle at all.
yeah, but this movie isn't trying to say much. The most it's trying to say is like, hey, want to see a bunch of like spring break kids get fucking eaten by a bunch of fish?
And Ving Rhames cutting up a million piranhas, prehistoric piranhas with
Oh my
milk
God.
butter.
That
yeah,
scene,
okay.
that's probably my favorite part of the movie.
That is honestly the peak of the over-the-top action.
Well, it's hilarious because before that, the police are just driving around in their boats, just firing their guns into the water
Yeah, they're
willy
shooting these
nilly.
piranhas with shotguns.
And
tasers.
And Ving Rhames, oh yeah, and a taser. And Ving Rhames is like standing in the shore or like in the shallows and shooting into the water with his shotgun. And when it runs dry, he just rips a boat motor off a nearby speedboat and just starts hacking up all of these piranhas before they eventually overwhelm him, and it's amazing.
And
And
yeah,
it's so sad when they
It
do
is sad.
overwhelm him.
It's like Ving Rhames is a very small part of this movie, but like, yeah, his heroism and his death because of it is it's kind of emotional.
And he was 150% into his character and
Oh,
whatever
yes.
the hell he was doing killing
Dude,
those
Ving
piranhas.
Rhames is like Ving Rhames is underrated as shit as an actor. I think that he is a treasure.
he has a great one-liner before he starts doing the boat motor, but I can't remember it. Let me see.
Is it chew on this, motherfuckers?
Yeah, it is. He says that right before starting the boat motor.
This sentence in
Jeez.
Wikipedia describing the scene says it all. Deputy Fallon makes a last stand, taking a boat motor and using the propeller to shred many piranhas, though he is presumed to be killed by the piranhas.
Presumed.
Yeah, well, shit.
Well, he does.
There's that.
I should say he does come back in the sequel. Guys.
Oh my god.
Oh,
What?
shit.
He's like half man, half robot.
Oh my god.
Does he have a boat motor for an arm?
I wish.
That would be amazing.
Well, no, see, that's because this movie does it sets itself up for a sequel, of course, like any great movie should, honestly. Like, you want to get franchises going, and that movie was called Piranha 3 Double D, and apparently it was not as good.
It was garbage.
I'm sure that they doubled down on all of the stupidity, but without any of the of the crap.
I actually saw the sequel, and it's all set at a water park,
What?
that should be amazing.
right? But the thing is, they don't do enough good with that setting. You know, it's just a bunch of wasted potential. Honestly.
Bummer, dude. I know that one sucks. I haven't seen it, but like I know it's bad. But this movie gets a really bad rap. Like, this is one of those movies that if you start talking about, like, most people are gonna roll their eyes and be like, oh, that dumb movie. It's like, yeah, it's fucking dumb, but it's hilarious.
Well, even then, it wasn't highly praised, but it was fairly well received when it came out, and it's one of the few movies where they didn't have any pre-release screenings, which, I mean, anytime a movie does that, it's a very bad sign. But that it did that while still getting a pretty warm reception. So
that's
comparatively to like other trash that came out around that time.
That's the thing too. You know, this movie is capital F fun.
Yeah.
And, like, if you give it a bad rating, you're taking it way too seriously.
I feel like if you're
Well,
a
hey,
fan...
if someone isn't a fan, like if someone just doesn't like care for that kind of like excessive violence, then they can rate it poorly for that. But in terms of just entertainment, yeah, I think it does all the right kind of things.
It's not trying to be Citizen Kane or anything.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like...
It's not even trying to be Jaws.
I feel like this is the type of movie that if you have an appreciation or a sense of enjoyment for, like, exploitation cinema or super campy B movies, like, there's no way you can't have fun with this movie. You just have to go into it knowing what you're expecting. Because it obviously is not trying to be, like, high-end fine cinema. Like, fucking Jerry O'Connell gets his dick bitten off by a piranha, and then we get a shot of it floating in the water before it gets snatched up and then burped out by another piranha.
That's true. The piranha did burp, didn't
The
it?
piranha
Absolutely.
burped. The piranha
Absolutely
burped,
ridiculous.
and his half-eaten CG schlong floats through the water. Like, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about this movie, then I don't even know what the fuck else to say.
Jerry O'Connell has maybe my favorite death scene in the movie too.
Oh
Like,
my god,
he's
it's brutal.
he's on like the boat. Jake, the character, is gonna like throw him in the water to be a distraction, so the piranhas go at his body. And
Right, because at this point he's already been half eaten.
Yeah.
so
Yeah, they pull him out of the
presume him to
water
be
the
dead.
first time, and
Dangly legs.
and he's just a skeleton from like the chest down, and it's really funny because his like little
little Slim Jim
his
limbs.
little stick legs are still moving around and stuff, even though they're totally devoid of muscle or connective tissue, and they assume he's dead, so they just cover him with a towel.
Yeah.
And then later, like you said, yeah, Jake goes to throw his body in the water as a distraction, and he's still alive.
Yeah, he like grabs Jake by the arm.
And Jake still just picks him up and tosses
Yeah,
him in
well,
the water.
and his last words were "wet t-shirt."
Oh, yeah, that's right.
T-shirt. Oh, I thought that was so good.
It's so funny. The entire movie, no matter what is happening, all he cares about is getting those money shots. It's great. And he's just, like you said, he steals the show. He's just super manic, totally coked out, absolutely sleazy as fuck, propositioning teenagers and...
Yeah, flying tatas.
Yes, flying tatas.
And talking about, they have two models like swimming underwater, and he's like, fish with tits, that's what it's about. I'd fuck fishes, man, I'd fuck a fish.
He's like, if all fish looked like that, I would fuck nothing but fish. That scene too is like, I don't want to say artful, but the way they present it, of just like these two naked porn stars.
Well,
just
apparently
like around.
that took a long time for them to choreograph, both of them, because I mean they have to swim like synchronized with each other and underwater, so it must have taken them a long time to do that. The effort's there when you look at it.
Well, no, it goes on for a long time, and it's all in like slow motion, and they're like playing nice opera over it, and it's very well shot, very pretty, and then it's just like after that it just goes right back into like the super bloody exploitation stuff. It like there's artifice in this movie for sure. Like it's trying to be fun and ridiculous, but they put thought and effort into this movie.
Yeah. There was an obvious love for like exploitation in movies. There was a love of sleaze and trash.
But it didn't go out of its way to try to like stylistically mimic exploitation cinema in terms of the visual style. They keep it very modern in that respect. They just do all of these things that you would see in an exploitation film.
Well, yeah, and that's another reason why I think it works more than other movies that try to do exploitation.
Yeah.
It's not stuck in the past. It's trying to do a new take on
it's not
exploitation.
like fucking the Grindhouse movies that Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez did, where they like put 70s like film grain over the stuff that they were shooting to try to be like, oh, isn't this so 70s? I mean, that has its own place, of course, but this is more like you said, an appreciation for exploitation cinema as a whole, and to want to make like a modern day exploitation film.
I loved the whole sequence where Jake's love interest is stuck in the boat, and they can't seem to figure out that there's a door on the back of the boat that she could like get through the whole time.
Right. Once they lure the piranhas away, he has to swim under the boat and come up through the glass bottom to get her, when she could just like jump in the water and swim out through the door.
Well, yeah, while the boat is slowly sinking, they spent the whole time trying to get the top grade off and just allowing the obvious door to just like go underwater.
Right. I mean, at that point, there were piranhas in the water, so if she'd gotten in, she would have been killed. But once Jake throws the porn guy's body in the water, and he has the time to swim all the way under the boat and come up through the bottom, and then have a romantic kiss scene before they actually swim out. The choice that they make to like throw the rope from one boat to another and then crawl across the rope over 1,000 hungry piranha, like there's gotta be a better way to do that. I think somebody even says it. I can't remember.
I think it was Adam Scott's character.
It might have been Adam Scott's character when they're doing that. It's like, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole scene was just, I mean, it's all silly. That whole thing is very dumb, but not very important, because the movie is not about that. At that point, the real important scene of the movie had already occurred, the whole massacre at the spring break party.
Yeah, well, that's a hard scene to top. But I still think the stuff at the end when they're trying to rescue everybody from the sinking boat is fun.
No, it's just the way they go about it is just like such a fucking mess. that's really the thing.
Right. It seems like a super roundabout, inefficient way to do it. And how Jake ends up Jaws style, creating
Yeah.
a bomb to blow up all the piranhas by turning on the propane tanks and using like a flare, a boat flare or something. I do really appreciate all of the Jaws homages in this, like having Richard Dreyfuss at the beginning in the same outfit.
They do that dolly zoom.
They do like the vertigo zoom that they do on Roy Scheider on Jaws. They even at one point, like, I don't know if you guys noticed when Elizabeth Shue and Ving Rhames are like walking around the dock at the beginning, they basically have the Jaws music playing. It's a little bit different, but it's an obvious nod to that. I feel like the chew on this motherfuckers is the smile you son of a bitch equivalent. Yeah. And then to blow all the fish up at the end. It's just like this movie, the people who made this movie fucking love Jaws, and they're like, let's make our own Jaws, but with lots of smaller angry fish instead of one big angry fish.
Let's make Jaws with tits.
Also, yes. I mean, really,
if
you go and think about it, like, the only thing that's really missing from Jaws is like a bunch of fake porn star titties.
Yeah, bunch of big old tits and ass.
Tiggle bitties. I guess we should probably talk about the ending and the way they set it up for the sequel.
Yeah. They finally get back onto the safety boat that they're rescuing everyone off of.
The boat that's not sinking.
Yeah, and Christopher Lloyd calls. And he's like, we have a terrible problem. The piranha you brought in earlier in the movie, it has no reproductive organs.
Or it doesn't have mature reproductive organs. So the ones that you've been fighting are not fully mature! And then Adam Scott's just like, so you're telling me that those are all babies?
Babies?
And then he's like,
Huh.
Well, where are the parents then? And then a giant piranha jumps from off screen, grabs him, and carries him off, and then it cuts to credits.
Yeah, which is incredible.
Is the second one about fighting the very large piranhas, or do they just
a mix
okay?
Of both.
So they don't just totally move on from that in the follow-up.
Weren't you saying it's like at a water park?
Yep, it's at a water park. So you have a bunch of piranhas going through pipes and stuff.
Man, like, I have no desire to see that movie because I trust you guys when you say that it's bad, but it just blows my mind how you have an idea to have very large piranhas at a water park and it's not amazing.
Well, I think the problem is Piranha 3 Double D isn't really grounded in its own world as much. It gets very cartoony, but it doesn't, like, the stakes are just destroyed.
Is it too, like, nudge nudge wink wink and
yes,
this is so ridiculous?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, to take it back to the Sharknado reference, like, I think the first Sharknado strikes that really good balance of understanding that its premise is ridiculous, but still playing it somewhat sincerely. And then in all of the Sharknado sequels, I feel like they're way too self-aware.
I would agree with that for the most part.
Like, it's still funny, but it loses some of its charm, like you were saying, when it's too, like, you see what we did there? It's like, yeah, we know, it's fucking sharks in a tornado. Like, we get it. That's why we're watching this movie. You've already got us. You don't need to point out your jokes multiple times. Well, that's a different movie for a different day. Do you guys want to rate this, or is there anything else you want to talk about first?
I think we can rate this. I think we pretty much discussed everything here.
Cool. Well, Ben, why don't you start, and we'll go around in a circle.
All right. Well, this movie is fun, capital F-U-N. It is one of the most fun horror movies out there, in my opinion. It is very campy, very cartoony, very over the top, very silly. But it delivers on the gore, you know. It has some actual visceral elements to it. You get that new French Extreme background that Asia brings. Alexandra Asia, the director. It might not be the smartest, loftiest movie, but fuck it. Not all movies have to be. And, you know, this movie works in the same way a lot of Roger Corman movies work for me, or a lot of, you know, even like Russ Meyer movies work, where it's just full of violence and nudity and over-the-top camp, but it works because it's grounded in its own sense of reality, and it doesn't feel in on the joke. It plays it up, but it never feels like it's nudging you too much about it. So yeah, I think I would give this, honestly, I would give this a 5 out of 5, because I think this is a perfect combination of the horror zeitgeist at the time with, you know, an earnest, loving parody of Jaws all blended together. It's a fantastic movie. Jerry O'Connell steals the show in it, in my opinion. I think he plays a perfect sleazy porn director in this. Just fantastic movie. Would absolutely recommend it.
Cool. What about you, Quinn?
All right, like what Ben was saying, this movie is just fun. It's absolutely ridiculous and absurd, but it's all in a great and fantastic, fun viewing way. They had a good build up to like the chaotic mass killing scene and the boat scene by warning them to get out of the water, and they didn't, and the whole boat thing too as well. So I love that. I can't in good heart give it a perfect 5 out of 5 because it is such an absurd movie, but I'll give it 4 pairs of fake porn star titties out of 5 pairs of fake porn star titties.
All right, I think that's a pretty great recommendation. Eugene?
For me, yeah, I guess I just I don't want to echo all the same things that have been said already, but certainly a low stakes movie. I'm just looking for something to see gore and guts get splattered across the screen. That's what this movie.
It's coming
really
at you. It's in 3D.
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly. I'd say if you can't watch it, try and watch it with the 3D glasses. So I know I wanted to, and I think the biggest problems is that you just kind of have to take it as all that to accept that it's not trying to be anything too serious, and that in a lot of ways it's okay being really dumb. And that might be a problem for some people, but I'm easygoing. I'm not difficult to please, so I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5.
For this movie, I feel like I have to rate it based on entertainment alone, because like Ben said, it's not like a smart movie. It's not high concept, but the craft is there. And these people obviously were taking it seriously when they were making it. And it's really fun. It's great to just like turn your brain off and just watch it and watch all of the crazy violence and boobs and butts fly all over the screen. And like it's just like a high octane, ridiculous exploitation thrill ride. So for the amount of entertainment I get out of this, I'm going to echo Ben, and I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. So that will give Piranha 3D an average rating of 4.4 pods out of 5. So if you love B movies, if you love blood and gore, if you love Ving Rhames, because I know I do, then fucking check this movie out. You won't be disappointed. Go into it looking to have a good time, and you'll have a good fucking time. That will bring us to the end of this episode. I think we're going to have one more episode all together here in Milwaukee. By the time it comes out, we will already have completed our move, but we're going to try to do one more and maybe get our friend Hannah back on. If you liked the last episode, get out. If you like the show, you can leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else that you get your podcasts where you can rate them. You can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, @PodPeoplePod. Send us your recommendations, questions, comments. If you prefer email, you can get at us at podpeoplepod@gmail.com. And like I plugged in the last episode, check out our Letterboxd page for a complete catalog of all of the films we've talked about on the show with links to each episode. I think we were talking about getting a watch list going on there for movies that we want to do on the show.
By the time you listen to this, there should be a watch list up. and we'll be asking for any recommendations you have, anything you want to hear us talk about on the show. Feel free to throw a comment in there. We already have a few movies in there.
And if it's not already in the list or it's not something that we've already talked about, then you'll see your recommendation in our watch list and we'll get around to it.
Leprechaun 2 Back in the Hood is definitely going on the list.
Absolutely.
We
absolutely will do a Leprechaun episode at some point.
We've got to. If you want to, if you're feeling into it, you can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Van Awesome. Do you guys have anything else you would like to plug?
You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Sheets.
Quinn, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, if you liked some of my silly comments and my minimal participation in this episode, you could check out my Twitter, which I also minimally participate on. It's Infinite Quin, but Quinn is spelled with one N at the end, not two. And if you want to see me participate more in things, check out creamcitycentral.com. And if you're into sports, specifically Wisconsin sports, definitely check out that site.
Yeah, Quinn's a sports journalist.
Kind of, yes.
Hey, you write for a sports site, so that's sports journalism. Eugene?
Well, my Fortnite stream has been lacking, to say the least.
Is it hard to play Fortnite with a hook hand?
Yeah, that was because I thought that I could just kind of do it off screen. I will admit this. For the first little bit I had hired just a small person, or no, what do they like to be called? Dwarves. I hired a dwarf to operate the keyboards while I kicked him, and the kicks were he knew what I was trying to command him to do.
Pod People does not condone the kicking of dwarves.
You're right.
Only
No, side project. But I think the people because the stream was going, but they could hear the crying and my kicking. And they weren't mad about that. They were just mad that I wasn't actually playing the game. So lacking right now. I'm trying to get my webcam show going on though. So
I meant to tell you earlier, Eugene, but I'm sorry for swatting you the other night.
That was especially because the dwarf I had hired was also an illegal, so it got me in a lot of trouble.
Oh my god!
Oh no!
Yeah, shut down. Thankfully, with the hook hands, they did consider me a threat, and so they took. They were great guys. They really knew how to do their jobs. They took me down real quick. So
good thing there wasn't any neo-Nazi lawyers from New York City in the vicinity.
Yes,
to
that's
reports.
Right. Thank God. So I've gotten out unscathed so far, but still trying to struggle and make a living. If you you give me $10 on Patreon, I'll give you a picture of me in a wig, if that's your thing. I don't know. Last guy to give me money wanted that, so maybe I'm a wig guy now. So hey, check me out, Big Wig Hook Man. You can support me. I do webcam shows, and I'm trying to get my Fortnite stream off the ground. So just maybe I can get the ball rolling again. So a lot of projects on my plate.
I thought it was pronounced Hookman. Excuse me for making that assumption.
Well, you should have asked me first.
Well, the show is produced and scored by Ben and edited by me. And thank you, as always, for listening. We'll catch you next time. And just remember, if you go on spring break, look out for those nasty baby piranhas, because they got big, sharp teeth.
Chomp.
40 million years!